All right, well, good work there, Lagos State. We've often talked about recent accidents in Nigeria and how many of them could be preventable. So it's good to see the government of Lagos State being proactive. You know, it's going to provide free test eye screening, drugs, substance abuse sensitization, working in collaboration with the NDLA. But the big stories this morning, Rufai, are the stories around the budget defense. Accountant General of the Federation under fire, if I put it that way. And then, of course, INEC in the spotlight. Your take on these stories?
A couple of things. Well, if they can turn off the headset so I cannot hear the feedback. I'll be waiting on them to do that. Very good. Thank you. So, a couple of things. I think we've always complained that the budget is a shambles. And this budget cannot deliver any good for any Nigerian out there. And it has shown. A budget that you don't even come out to fund. With this level of paucity of funds, the budget performance should be less than 50%. I'll even be surprised if we get 20% budget performance, because let me excite you. If Ali Pate is saying over 200 billion was earmarked and he gets 36 million naira, what will you call that budget performance? It's even less than 0.0001%. So, but at the same time, we're throwing the baby away with the bathwater. 500 million naira was released to the SC, to the President of Media and Comms, for strategic global media engagement. But we can't give health. We only give health at 6 million. So even with the paucity of funds, the money they are not releasing, the so-called money, and that's why I say these guys are running a casino economy. There's nothing you're going to tell me. The empirical facts are so there. This is the same government that say, we've met our revenue targets. We've met our revenue targets. Non-oil. Where's the money? If you meet the revenue, it's not to spend the money on the people. At the same time, over 150 million was paid to an airline company for travels. But for health, capital project, just 36 million. Then it goes way further with the shenanigans that happen. Let me excite you a bit. Only 60 million was released from the 858 billion budgeted to bridge electricity tariff gap by MBET. They said they were going to give a bond to the electricity companies. Then the price was 4 trillion. Now it's gone up over 6 trillion. They're still wriggling around the bond today. So government is not meeting most of its encumbrances, and it claims it has a budget. That's why they are packing most of the, budget lines into a new year. Even Mr. Omari that thinks I don't see anything good in him. I'm speaking up for him this morning. I hope he's listening. His budget is about 3.4 trillion. It's just over 700 billion that they've been able to give him to do his work. How do you expect people to work? Anyway, that's never going to stop me from asking accountability questions from him. So I'm here to do my job. He should do his. And make the press conference less about Rufai. Please, it's not me. Make it about your ministry. So when you look at it, there's a lot of rigmarole that is going on. There's a lot of rigmarole. And that's why we are not getting anything done. And that's why we can truly ask this administration, what have you done for Nigerians in the last 4 years? If you cannot meet most of your budget cycle, but it's still in the same country you can't meet most of your, you shelled out over $150 million to buy a plane for yourself. So what are we talking about? INEC. It would be a miracle if INEC even gets over that 700 billion. Yes, they want to use over 200 billion for technology. Electoral, operations, over, billion, over 300 billion. But in the end, God knows how much will be released. Maybe it's after next year, we will now know, when we do an inquiry like this, we'll see that the budget performance was paltry. I thought the president said we did very well in budget performance because he always says that every year. But what we see is different from what he says. When he goes to present the budget, the budget, we cash backed it, we did well. They should give us empirical figures of budget performance. If I say that now, so it's a miss. So see, our budgeting system is flawed. Even the ones we do, when we finally release the money, we don't get anything done. And that's why you can see the frustration of Zen. So, like the senators are asking today, I would like to also ask them, please, where is all the so-called revenue this government said they made? On top of that, we are going to be borrowing again. We are borrowing trillions. 17 trillion there, about to meet the 20 trillion deficit in the budget. The one we borrowed last year, did we release that money to the ministries to work?
Okay.
So these are the questions we are asking.
Many questions.
Many accountability questions, and it is incumbent on them to answer it. And enough of all this envelope system, this system, that system. No, let's get things done.
All right.
That's all we demand.
Dr. Bati.
Okay, I think the subjects, the producers have brought this morning are interrelated. Let me start with INEC. INEC asking for so much money that Nigerians are complaining about. The first question to ask is that it's 873 billion for 2027 elections, covering election processes, administrative, technology, capital expenditure, and then miscellaneous, all totaling 873 billion. The first question that, rational thinking member of this society will ask is that, why 873 billion? All the things we bought for operations in 2023, where did they disappear to? The technology that we put in place for 2023 elections, what happened? So this will be some of the questions that will be raised. However, this is a comment about the Nigerian system. We don't have a culture of maintenance. If any institution or agency in Nigeria buys vehicles, computers, nobody maintains them. You just do the activity, you go, some, technological things even require a certain level of air conditioning. Nobody will pay attention. They will wait till the next budget cycle and they will ask for the same things. The vehicles that were bought for the 2023 elections, some vehicles can survive for 10 years if properly maintained. We don't maintain anything here. So where are those vehicles? Have they disappeared? Have they been auctioned? Have they been... which is the point I was making yesterday. Originally, Dr. Teriba's point. Now, all these MDAs, do they even generate revenue? Are they involved in trying to reinvent themselves? But no, everybody is looking for what to collect and just spend from the Nigerian administration. Technology. They're asking for 209 billion naira, right? I think it's quoted in naira. Yeah, the people who are asking for e-transmission of results, you should have seen that this is foreseeable. And I made the point in my article on Tuesday and in subsequent comments on this platform that cost is involved. Apart from cost, there will be a lot in terms of insider manipulations, human values, and all of that. That's where we are now. Now, there's also something in the INEC request, miscellaneous, $41 billion for miscellaneous. Well, I can understand that because there will be contingency expenditure. Okay, sometimes you don't know what will happen on the field. But the bigger issue in terms of all of this is, will it be cash backed? Which will lead me quickly to another subject. But the most sensational thing that happened with Professor Amukpiton's presentation yesterday has to do with the fact that INEC is even now saying it will set up INEC hospitals in Abuja, 2 INEC hospitals that will also incur cost. And Senator Ishiomole, stood up. This situation may have been humorous, but I think it was very correct. He's saying, no, INEC should focus on its core mandate. INEC can set up clinics in case there are events in, any of the states. In fact, INEC should be talking about buying ambulances in case some people have made away with the ambulances that were bought in 2023. What is this noise? Can these people in this thing do their job? Now, so you see, so they can buy ambulances in case there are emergencies. But to say you want to set up hospital, I think that Senator Oshiomhole is very right in that regard. So what we're dealing with basically is contradictions. The other point that I left will take us immediately to the testimony by the Accountant General of the Federation. And the issue is that, look, we have all these contractors, we have these agencies. We say we have made 28 trillion naira in terms of revenue, and yet capital votes are not cash backed. The Ministry of Health gets in 2025 just about 36 million out of about over 300 billion. Primary agriculture in the Ministry of Agriculture is not funded. And yet we say, oh, we are making money. So where is the money going? The Accountant General, Dr. Gunjimi, faced the panel, Senate Committee on Finance, and says, well, we can assure you that there is no ways and means. But all of these issues, it's only when we have money that we can cash back the MDAs. At the same time, the central bank governor is saying we have 50 billion, I think, in reserve, 46 point something, close to $50 billion. Why are we keeping money in foreign reserve and we cannot cash back and ensure performance? So the issue then, therefore, will be the envelope system that we have adopted since 2024. The envelope budgeting system that Nigeria has. Okay, even before 2024, I think under the Buhari government, we had the envelope system. So what is available is what is available, or what the people disbursing the funds say. No, we should have a performance-based budgeting system. And that is the main concern here. How do you say, you are now going to borrow trillions of naira? The other issues, they said they are going to sell assets. Mr. Wale Edun, the coordinating minister, had assured us before now that, borrowing is not the target. When he went to Davos, he said something about domestic borrowing, which the experts, economic analysts, have said is going to crowd out the private sector in terms of access to funds for economic growth. So there are many contradictions. I'm not an economist, but the people who are in that field, who are economists, have been questioning all of these details, and they've been saying, look, what is going on looks like voodoo economists on the part of the experts that are right there. Contractors are not paid. You say there is no money. You say we have 21 trillion revenue, and then you say we have 50 billion in foreign reserve. Is the foreign reserve more important than performance within the economy? These are the critical questions. As for Lagos State Security Safe Driving Initiative, I think it's a good idea. But they are limiting it to the ordinary, people, this motor park people. I believe that, in fact, many of the people who drive in Lagos are blind. I believe that many of them even have psychiatric problems. So it should not just be eyeglasses, giving them eyeglasses. They should begin to treat the mentality of the people who drive in Lagos. But, there are larger issues also about alcoholism in the driving sector. NDLA tried to address that. Some people said, such alcohol should be allowed and all of that. So this is the problem we have. And I guess it's a sign of our underdevelopment. And it's not only motor park touts that should be addressed. Even supposedly educated people also need eyeglasses so that they don't keep destroying our vehicles on the roads on a daily basis. Safety on the road is very important. And I think the basic point is to say that the Lagos State government focusing on it is taking the right direction.
Absolutely. I think the Lagos State government, like I said earlier, has taken the step in the right direction and leading on this. And I hope that other states would also do the same, because we've talked about needless, preventable accidents have happened on the road. There are many stakeholders that would be involved in ensuring, more safety on our roads, including the agencies, FRSC, but also state governments can also take the initiative like this to extend these kinds of outreaches to drivers, especially drivers of publicly mass transit buses in particular, would be very important. But let me talk about, the biggest stories this morning around the defense budget and, as I said, the defending of the budgets of different agencies, ministries, and the likes. INEC was in the spotlight yesterday. Now, there are a few questions that some people might ask. If you want to compare at least the last major election cycle, how much was released from that, how much was expended, and ahead of the 2027 elections, how much is being requested for in the 2026 budget. In 2023, the budget or the amount spent was 313.4 billion naira, meaning that there's a 64.1% increase from that time to the 873.78 billion naira that was presented to Senate yesterday. Some questions that will be asked by those who are watching will be, why this huge jump from 2023 to 2027? That was responded to yesterday, and it's quite obvious. Number one, devaluation of the naira. Number two, inflation was taken into account. Number three as well was a significant boost in investment in technology and in capital projects. In fact, from the inference made by the INEC chairman, some of the capital projects that were listed in the 2023 budgets were not adequately provided for, or were not all executed. Also, recall that in 2023, 2022 to 2023, we had a number of attacks on INEC infrastructure, INEC centers, and so some of their capital or their infrastructure or equipment must have gotten destroyed in the process. So there's a case for, number one, maintenance, number two, duplication of resources, especially when it's going to the same thing and funding the same thing year in, year out. But there's also a case for citizens' responsibility, whereby we see deliberate attacks on INEC equipment, buildings, costing the Nigerian people money. So these are some of the costs that we end up having to pay for later on with regards to that. But the unfortunate thing is that we have not yet been able to see the line item. We've just seen broad headlines and huge amounts of money allocated to these broad headlines. So the devil is in the detail in this regard. We need to see in terms of what is being paid for. Now, the other part I'd like to talk about is the considerable, about 200 billion being allocated to technology. And of course, we all know that to prosecute an election for over 200 million people, at least a percentage of that, the voting population, you would need resources. You would need a lot of money. But what Nigerians are asking for is value for money. There's no point expending huge amounts of money like we did in the last elections, 313 billion naira. And then at the end of the day, we still have so many litigation or election dispute cases that it almost seems as if the election executed or prosecuted by INEC was in vain. And so what the question is this morning is how INEC can translate these funds that they are requesting for, which might or might not be, fully funded, how they would assure Nigerians that based on these funds released, they would give us free, fair, and credible elections. If you are going to invest a lot in technology, perhaps let's revisit the provisions of the election amendment bill of 2026. If IREV is just a viewing portal, can we justify the amount of money allocated to upgrade the IREV portal? Because if we're not going to use it, it's not significant. We are talking about electronic transmission, but the weight of it is largely insignificant. Why are we allocating a lot of money to that? Perhaps channel the funds to better things and, really utilize the money so that Nigerians can actually see value for money, especially in a time when there's a lot of cash crunch. But a number of things to talk about this morning, unfortunately, out of time. But with just a quick point on the Accountants General of the Federation, a good point was made around revenue generation and how, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to translate because contractors are being owed and zero allocation to capital projects. These are some questions that ought to be asked, and I think the Senate committee did well to highlight those points for accountability